Zip Zip woke up on a sunny morning as the fastest rabbit in the forest. He pricked up his ears and looked around happily. The impatient rabbit could not stand still and was constantly jumping. He remembered the story of the legendary golden carrot garden. He decided to set off immediately. She threw a few things into her bag and quickly plunged into the forest. Toss, toss! The wise turtle, walking slowly along the roadside, appeared. Zip, zip, sped past Toes, Toes. Toss, Toss called out to him to be slow and careful. Zip, Zip started laughing, mocking the turtle's slowness. He ignored the warnings and drove away quickly. He was running uncontrollably towards the depths of the forest. He was passing through the trees like lightning. He was jumping over the obstacles in his path without thinking. The road was becoming increasingly difficult and narrow. Zoop Zoop arrived at a stream bank. He prepared to cross to the other side of the water. He took a big leap without thinking. However, his foot struck a wet stone. He lost his balance and fell into the water. The cold water soaked her feathers completely. Zip Zip desperately tried to get out of the water. He barely reached the shore with his wet feathers. He sat on the ground with great disappointment. He realized that his speed was harming him. At that moment, the wise owl Mino appeared in the tree. Mino looked down from a high branch. He observed Zip Zip's sad state. The owl began to speak in a wise voice. He said that true success is not just speed. He emphasized the importance of acting at the right time. Zip Zip looked up and stared at the owl. Mino's words touched her heart. The rabbit began to question its own haste. He wondered why she was so impatient. He realized that speed can sometimes be the greatest enemy. Mino told her to take a deep breath. Zip Zip tried to calm down. He listened carefully to the sounds of the forest for the first time. He saw that rushing gained him nothing. He decided to develop a new perspective. He would now follow a different path to reach his goal. Mino noticed the change in the rabbit's eyes. The wise owl flapped its wings, wishing him luck. Zip Zip stood up and shook the water off himself. From now on, he would act more carefully and cautiously. He started looking for the hidden signs in the forest. He waited patiently to reach the golden carrot garden. She was taking her steps more confidently now. He discovered the joy of observing. He started to notice the beauties around him. There was no trace left of his hurried manner. His mind cleared and he found peace. He understood that he needed to wait for the right time to come. The forest seemed friendlier to him now. Zip Zip felt the power of patience deep within. He continued on his way with new hope. He knew that he was finally ready to reach his goal. The sun was rising slowly over the forest. Zip Zip was determined to reap the fruits of patience. Zip Zip sat motionless by the creek, thinking about Mino's words. She took a deep breath, shaking off her wet feathers. He realized that rushing only made him lose time. Now, he started to observe his surroundings carefully. Before jumping, her eyes caught a hidden path deep in the forest. He saw colorful flowers that he had never noticed before. He decided to proceed slowly and surely. She tried to feel the texture of the soil with every step. The sunlight filtering through the branches illuminated his path. He left his hurried manner behind and continued to walk in peace. He stood in the shade of a tree and listened to the chirping of the birds. He realized that being patient makes the world a more beautiful place. She gently slipped through the tangled bushes in front of her. A secret passage that he had not seen before appeared. This passage was the only way to the golden carrot garden. Despite his excitement, Zip Zip kept his steps slow. When he reached the garden gate, a deep silence prevailed. The door was designed to open for those who are patient. Zip Zip waited in front of the door and took a deep breath. The door creaked open slowly, as if it had been waiting for him. The interior was glowing with golden lights. Legendary carrots were rising in the middle of the garden. Zip Zip stepped into the garden without rushing. The glow of the carrots was like the reward for patience. He experienced the peace of knowing that he had finally received his reward. He took a carrot in his hand and examined it carefully. He remembered that it was not speed, but patience that brought him here. Every detail in the garden was teaching him a new lesson. Zip Zip completely erased the haste within him while satisfying his hunger. He was no longer just fast, but also wise. As he left the garden, he turned back and looked with gratitude. As he returned to the forest, his steps were much more confident. He met Toss Toss again on the road. He greeted the turtle with a nod and a smile. Toss Toss noticed the change in the rabbit immediately. Zip Zip was now hopping happily in the forest. However, these jumps were no longer random. Every jump was at the right time and in the right place. Every corner of the forest felt more familiar to him now. The strength that comes from being patient had eased his heart. There was no longer any need for him to rush for anything. Zip Zip began to be known as the wisest rabbit in the forest. He continued his life by combining his speed with patience. As the sun set, the forest turned golden. Zip Zip was enjoying the lesson he had just learned. The fruit of patience was not just a carrot, but peace. With this peace, he headed towards his nest in the forest. Zip Zip never forgot this lesson for the rest of his life. The trees along the way seemed to be greeting him. He combined the inner peace within himself with the silence of the forest. There was no point in rushing anymore. Nature had taught him the rhythm of patience. Zip Zip was a happy rabbit when he arrived at his burrow. The stars had already begun to shine in the sky. He shook off the weariness of the day with the wisdom him had gained. She lay down on her soft bed and closed her eyes peacefully. He saw that beautiful garden in his dream again. When morning came, he was ready for a new day. From now on, every leap was a life lesson. Zip Zip was the happiest creature in the forest.